All right, welcome back to TML Weekly. This is episode 26. As always, presented by Bjorn and Don Cherry Sports Grill. Lots to talk about. The Leafs just clinched a playoff spot this past week, for the 8th straight season. So staying in tune with the playoffs. There's a wild card race in the East right now going on. There's 2 spots left, the third in the Metro and the wild card 2. And we got currently Metro 3 is the Isles with 85. And then Detroit's in the second wild card with 84. And you have the Pens, Caps, and Flyers, all 83 points. And they all got like 5, and the Flyers have 4 games left. So who do you guys see getting in? What do you think's gonna happen here?
Johnny, why don't you lead the way?
Yeah, before we get into that, you mentioned something, Nolan, that's 8 straight years in the playoffs, and in the history of the Toronto Maple Leafs, that's the longest consecutive playoff appearance streak in history. Did you know that, John?
You know what I know? I know
there's a lot of good coaches come through this place, but
hey, listen,
somebody's got to give Sheldon Keefe some credit.
Yeah, listen, and you know, in those 8 years, I'd like to point out, I've said it once, I've said it 1,000 times. The worst record in the history of the NHL, the worst record. There's been hundreds of coaches. We've got the worst record all time in elimination games. We're 1-13 under his leadership in games where you could eliminate the opponent from the playoffs. That is 6%. I don't know, Johnny. I'm not going to lie. I think you behind the bench. I think me. I think Nolan. I think my wife upstairs. I think any one of us could have higher than a 6% winning percentage with the teams that we've iced in this 8 years.
If you get into an elimination game in April or May in the National Hockey League and you don't win it, it's probably 95% the guys that are playing the game than it is the coach at that point of the year.
6%, John. 6%.
Well, so
14 games. We're not talking a small sample size.
Maybe they got to clean house this year if they can't win any elimination games. Clean house and get rid of some of these players that can't play the game the right way in April.
I promise you, I don't think there'll ever be a change. I was convinced last year that he was going to be gone. The only hope that I have is that
I was even convinced this year that he was going to be gone.
And listen, one thing that I will say that we have not touched on in this podcast that I can't believe that we've missed along the way, but major news in Leafland. Keith Pelly is now running this team. He's running all of MLSE really now. TFC, the Argos, the Raptors, the Leafs. I heard he did a pretty long form interview on TSN 1050 earlier in the week. And I will say that, you know, Keith Pelly's got a long history in the city of Toronto. He's managed a lot of major franchises. He was just over in the UK and the Gulf. I trust Keith Pelly. I think he's a guy who's committed to winning and doing things the right way. And, you know, if we don't do it this year, it's not going to happen with this leadership group. And, you know, I've maintained since the Montreal series that the coach wasn't the right guy. I still don't believe the coach is the right guy. Not shocking to anybody who's followed this podcast. But, you know, Brandon Shanahan, Tree Living, everybody under the sun. Tree Living may get a pass. I'm not crazy with the work that he's done, if I'm being full disclosure here, but he may be the one guy that gets a little bit of a rub. But with Keith Pelly coming in, you know, you got to think things are going to change.
Yeah, I don't see Shanny, you know, sticking around. Obviously, if they win, it's a different conversation.
100%.
But I'm not also sure that it wouldn't be Shanny kind of moving on, because he's had a pretty substantial amount of autonomy here, right? He's been able to go to the board. He's been able to veto his general manager. You know, he's been, for lack of a better term, he's been the direct pipeline to Tannenbaum, right? That's not here. That's not going to be here anymore. Now it's going to be Pelly. Pelly will be. So anything that Shanny wants to do, or anything that any of them want to do moving forward,
Ujiri or whoever else with the Raptors and everybody else is running through Keith Pelly from here on in.
Yeah, and Pelly, Pelly is known to be a hands-on manager, or leader, or whatever you want to call him. So yeah, you're not gonna trade a 7th round pick and for a prospect without him kind of knowing what's going on.
Agreed.
And some guys can work in that kind of an atmosphere. I'm not sure at Brendan Shanahan's probably made $5 to $7 million a year for the last 8-10 years that he's been in Toronto. He made a lot of money in his career too, and Brendan was always known to be a really smart guy with his money. He wasn't blowing it like a lot of guys. So he's fine. Now, having said that, if Pelly and him could have a relationship that maybe works for him, I don't know. But yeah, it's going to be interesting. It'll be good. I mean, it's not going to change anything, though. I mean, really, you're still going to go out and you're going to try to get the best players and the best staff and the best analytics guys, and you still got to win, right? You still got to be one of those 16 that catches lightning in the bottle, stays healthy, gets a bounce, gets a call. Nolan,
what do you think? Keith Pelly, what do you think if you're watching Leaf Nation and we've got this new up top management, the new buffer coming in, what is your thought on Keith Pelly and how he's going to affect either change or not change?
Yeah, I definitely wouldn't want him to come in and panic, gas everyone, bring a bunch of new people in, kind of just slowly get in first and then see what the problem internally is. If there's a problem, make the necessary changes. But I don't know too much about him as a person or his history or anything. But
so he ran just a little bit of background. He was with Hockey Night in Canada for years. He ran when Bell and Rogers had the unholy alliance and ran the Olympics. He was the guy that ran that. I think he was, Johnny, correct me if I'm wrong, but was he not key in the instrument of the Rogers NHL sports net deal? Yeah. Like I want to say he was if not the lead negotiator, he was significantly high in that process in getting that deal with Rogers done. And then he left North America. He went over to Europe and he ran the Ryder Cup for a couple of years and got to know that.
Ran the DP European tour. And
yeah. I have it on fairly good authority that part of the reason of him coming back was to try to get, with his European soccer background now, was to try and get MLSE ownership into the EPL. Sure. I know it hasn't been talked about and it hasn't been widely reported, but from things that I've heard that part of Keith Pelly coming in is to get
for sure.
Not TFC, but to get MLSE into an ownership very similar to Fenway Sports with what they've done with Liverpool and everything else.
Well, and what you do is you create a pipeline, right? There's a lot of value in that for
100%.
Soccer in North America right now is at a high, and there's more kids playing. There's more elite athletes now. There's funding for it from the governments, and what'll happen is now the TFC Academy. If let's say they go out. The smart way to do this is to not go and buy an EPL team, right? You want to go buy a team that you can get for a fraction of a top league team.
You're talking the Ryan Reynolds approach.
Yeah, second or third division, Wrexham, right? Second or third division, or somebody that's they've got a nice stadium. Maybe need to
a little bit of history behind them.
Yeah, put some money in it. Buy some good players.
And tell the story.
Win a couple years and
tell the story.
And now you've got TFC that's almost a farm team for that, right? So you can set up a Canada-wide academy in different locations that is a pipeline. And and it doesn't end in the MLS, right? It ends
100%.
in the EPL. So I think it's great. Hopefully,
Yeah,
they get some
I do
traction
too.
on that. It'd be fun. Yeah.
100%. 100%.
All right. So getting back to course. So what do you guys think about the Eastern Conference playoff race?
Yeah, I'll go there now. So I'm just looking at it here. You know what? I'd love to see Pittsburgh in. I really would. For Sid, and Gino and some of the older guys, but I'm telling you, it's going to be so Pittsburgh, Washington, Detroit, and Philly for one spot, right? I think Philly's done. I think they're fragile. I think they had it and they've blown it. It's really hard to get back now, as you guys know. Washington, I mean, if they can keep the puck out of their own net, they're scoring. Ovi's scoring. And Detroit, I mean,
Detroit can only get the wild card 2 spot. Just the other four
Detroit,
can pass the Isles or overtake the Wings, but Detroit
Right.
has to get the second wild card.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
Tampa could still catch Toronto mathematically.
Yeah.
But I'm going to go with Pittsburgh. I think so. We're taping tonight, folks. Just we're taping on Monday to show on Tuesday. So the Pittsburgh game hasn't happened yet, but I think it's going to be a doozy. I think it's going to be a real good test for Toronto because they're going to play a team that's playing desperate, right? They're going to come in here. Pittsburgh needs every ounce of this game to come out of here with a couple points. And Toronto, that's more of a playoff atmosphere. It's nice that they get this kind of an opportunity before you go into that crucial Florida swing here at the end. But I mean, just and you know what? Having said that, if Pittsburgh gets in, I don't know if I want to play them. I don't know if I want to play that hockey club because they're an NHL hockey club. Okay, they might have traded away Gensel, but they brought in
veteran NHL hockey club.
Right, that's one that's been there.
Mike Sullivan is your coach.
That understands how this works. That won't panic if they go down 0-2 on the road in New York or Carolina, and then that's not a matchup. I'd much rather play obviously Detroit, Washington, or Philly than Pittsburgh. Anyway.
So listen, John. Listen, I agree with you on your assessment on Pittsburgh. If I am Carolina or the Rangers, the one team that I do not want to face is the Pittsburgh Penguins.
Yeah.
So I'm going to be a bit of a homer here. Not surprising. I'm going to say the one team that I do not want to make the playoffs is Pittsburgh. I don't want Kyle Dubas having any success at all. I don't want any success coming to him. I don't want any credit going to him at all.
It won't. This is going to be despite him. Think about it. He just traded away arguably their fourth best player.
And I want to give a special shout out. I think it is so underreported and undervalued what Sidney Crosby is doing in Pittsburgh right now. Sidney Crosby scored 40 goals this year. Okay?
Yeah.
Sidney Crosby has literally picked a team, and if you followed Pittsburgh at all this year, Pittsburgh has no business even being in this conversation right now with the team that they have. Sidney Crosby has picked up an entire group of men and carried them thus far. He's not going to get any votes for MVP, but man,
I don't know about that. If he gets them in,
he deserves them, John. I have no problem.
I think if he gets them in, and the year that he said statistically, and the fact that they were down and out, and they trade, they're making trades to sell at the deadline, and now he like you said he leads just so much by example. Guys still talk about the way he looks after himself and the way he behaves. Every kid should watch his career and see that this is the way you score 40 goals at 36 or 37 and be a top 5 player in the world when you're supposed to be on the downside. He's almost getting better right now. Right?
It's amazing.
Yeah.
It's amazing. The only thing I'm voting against Pittsburgh because of Kyle Dubas. I love Sidney Crosby. The only reason, aside from Kyle Dubas, that I'm voting against Pittsburgh is literally going through the gauntlet right here. Their last few games are like the Leafs, Tampa, the Rangers, Carolina, and they've got to go the equivalent of like 6-1 in their last 7 games. So listen, if Pittsburgh gets in, full marks to them, they deserve it. My gut tells me you're going to see the Washington Capitals sneak in. That's my gut.
It'd be pretty cool too if Pittsburgh moved up to the 3rd spot in the Metro and play the Hurricanes in first round. You have Gensel playing Pittsburgh.
Oh,
yeah,
that'd be awesome.
Yeah,
that'd be great
and,
TV.
That trade. So Bunting, it's his first game back in Toronto tonight, I believe.
Right.
This
He didn't play here with Carolina?
He might have, actually, but.
Did we play Carolina at home this year?
Well, you play every Eastern team at home.
No, but have we? Yeah, we don't have another game against them. We probably played them once.
Yeah, we played them in the St. Pat's game in Toronto, but that was after the Gensel trade.
Oh, right. Yeah. Right.
Yeah. But I think
it's going to be interesting. It's nice that you have these races, because I've been watching games that I normally
never would have watched.
Yeah, I watched a couple on the weekend. I found we had Jack's winter season wrapped up, so we were rink to rink and party and this and that going on all weekend. But you find yourself, you might have an hour on 3:00 on Sunday afternoon that nothing's going on, and I've got one of the NBC games in the States on, and it's I love watching any of the New York teams play each other. Like, they hate each other.
It's
right?
so
New York, New Jersey, and New York.
So good. So
every
good.
single game, it's a gong show. Like that brawl the other night, it was. Okay. I loved it.
Hold on. Let's talk about it, because listen, I was at a family party this weekend, and the talk of the line brawl came up, and it was. I'm not going to lie to you. I was stunned. It was a very mixed review. Not surprisingly, I'm all in. I love it. I think it's great. Yep. I want more of it. Not staged. I do not want staged fighting coming back. I hate staged fighting. But when it's natural and it just comes with it, and the whole line and everybody's in and the benches are involved and everybody, that's hockey, man. I love it. I think it's important to the game. I think it's great for the game. And what I love most about it here is the referees handled it on the spot. You were gone, you were gone, you were gone, you were gone. There was no take 2. There was no round 2. They handled it. It happened. Part of the game. Let's keep going. I loved it.
Let's give some credit to the players on that too. And I'm with you on that 100%. What I've noticed, there's a lot more, and fighting has come back. And I'm not saying it's going to be prevalent like it was back in the day, because that'll never happen.
1984 is not coming back. The Flyers are gone. That's not happening again. But
the fighting is back, but I'm seeing a lot. And I mean, when I played in the 80s, it was the Wild West, right? There was no. Oh, you know what? I might have hurt him. I'm going to lay up and let the refs come in. No, and there was no when They call the code about if you're down on the ground with somebody. I mean, because we didn't have a lot of stage fights. It was a lot of retribution. It was, you hit one of my teammates, I'm going to come after you. If I toppled over with a guy, I'm still punching him when I'm down. Right now, and what I like about it is, and you complimented the refs on their ability to handle it.
It was well done,
right? You got a 235-pound guy that wants to throw a punch when linesman's in between. He's going to do that. But so I think it's being policed well by the refs, and I think it's being policed well by the players. one thing, and we'll continue on this line brawl, but a couple of points on that. I was at the rink the other day at the Nova Scotia Midget Major U18 Major game 5 final game, and I was standing with one of the dads of one of the teams. I'm not going to say who it is, but his kid's a prospect. His kid's a real nice hockey player, and he plays the game the right way, and he's heavy, and I think he's draft eligible in the queue this year, but just plays it the right way. And the dad is about my age, and he played some junior hockey. He was a good hockey player as well. The Q banned fighting. I don't know if you guys, we talked about this, right?
Mickey Mouse.
So if you got more than 2 fights, they still had some fights, but fighting went down, right? So this guy said to me, I don't think I'm going to have my kid play in the Q. And if my kid, has an opportunity to maybe get moved to the O or the dub, I'm going to look at that because I think the way my kid plays,
it's going to hurt him.
That's going to be something that may get him to another level, as opposed to, getting cross-checked in the face in the queue instead of, manning up. Right. So there's that. That's something big. But then the other thing about fighting, and I saw the clip. Did you guys see the clip of the Leafs bench when Ryan Reaves was fighting Pizzetta? It looked like they were. It looked like they were at like a magician or some sort of a concert that was so like, good. Oh my God, you're blowing my mind. They're hitting each other. Their mouths were open. It was awesome. So you've got on that bench $40 million, $45 million worth of hockey players that were respecting what this man was doing out there, right? To a point where these guys were like little school kids, right? Seeing something special. Like it's great to see. But that brawl, yeah, for sure. We talked about this, right? You got McDermott. He wanted to fight Rempe for the hit a couple weeks ago.
100%. You got to answer the bell. And John,
right? He answered it.
You listen. It's the same thing for Leaf fans. It's the same thing when Corey Perry hit Tavares, and it was not important. He didn't need to do. He didn't mean to do it. The knee hit. It was a bang bang play. However, Corey Perry knew he had to answer the bell. Yeah, and he took the fight because it was per the code. And I know it's a swear word to the Muffins. They don't like it, but per the code, he had to answer the bell, and he answered the bell. And I got all the time in the world for Corey Perry, right?
Yeah.
I would love Corey Perry on my team. I think it's a sin we didn't get him, but you got to love guys like that who understand the rules. They're unwritten. People, the Muffins don't like it when you say that, but these are the rules in the game. And you know what I saw, and guys, if you have not gone on Twitter or on YouTube, Google Austin Matthews during that fight. Find the Twitter. Matthews on that bench is the most engaged Austin Matthews I have seen in a game.
Loves it.
That you've ever seen. And what that tells me, for everybody who's anti-Ryan Reaves and says, he doesn't deserve the money, he doesn't deserve the contract, he's getting too much time, he's this, he's that. Listen, Ryan Reaves is there, and he is bringing that dressing room together. He is a guy, and you cannot buy this kind of cohesive leadership that he brings. And it's a lost art in our game today. Ryan Reaves is doing things that our game needs. And I'm telling you, if it's ever paid dividends before, this is going to be the time. I'm telling you guys, I feel great about Ryan Reaves and the way he's playing right now. Ryan Reaves from, October to February is a detriment to this team. Ryan Reaves from February onward, man, I'm telling you, this is a guy that's going to make a difference down the stretch for us. I really believe that.
I still don't have him in my opening.
He doesn't need to be, though, John, and that's the beauty of what he's bringing.
I agree.
He doesn't need to be.
Point.
I agree.
But he's ready.
We're on the same page.
He's riding the bike, and then if Matt Kachuk's running around in a Florida series, or Marchand, or somebody does something stupid in a Boston series, then he comes in.
Yeah,
right?
and
it's a detriment, right? You get a Western Conference team that comes in here in February. You've already been there, right? And they come in here, and we don't dress Ryan Reaves, and their guys are running around and they're doing this and they're doing that because they know they're not going to see you again until next year. Right. But when you're running around in a game and you play them 2 nights later.
So listen,
you're gonna think about that.
So let's talk about the uncomfortable weekend that was. I know our good friend George Laraque had a thing or two to say about Mr. Reaves. And Johnny, I know you've got some opinions on it. So why don't you hit me with your thoughts on Monsieur Laraque?
Well, I mean, George is he's an entertainer, right? He was a big, heavy, tough guy. He fought anybody that was in front of him. He was a gentleman. I some guys that played with him, and talked to the guys that play with him, and he was just a big teddy bear kind of off the ice, and he would politely ask guys to fight. He wouldn't be like, let's go. He'd be like, hey man, that kind of thing, right? He was like that. But he's a showman. He's got a podcast, and he's on the radio and does some TV work in RDS and the French stuff.
But I want to say his podcast isn't nearly what TML Weekly is.
No, God, no. And there's a new Facebook page too, eh?
Shout out to our new Facebook page. If you're not, if you haven't subscribed yet, get on Facebook, hit TML Weekly. We're happy to have you.
We're gonna go to giveaways and all kinds of stuff once we get to multiple levels of followers and people in it. So anyway, so George is a showman. I get it. I mean, so George put something out, in the context of it was, Chekak, fought him. Chekak made him look bad, and no, he didn't, right? Chekak bailed and pushed him into the net. That's what happened.
Facts.
Right? And when you get put into a net, and it ends the fight. As soon as the net's involved, the linesmen are coming in. So and I'm not saying that Reaves would have beat him or Chekak would have beat him. We don't know. Well, where was Chekak the other night? Was he?
We kind of know.
I think we know. But at the end of the day, Pizzetta took a run at camp, and he deserved to. And he's a tough guy. He's the guy that rode his stick this time last year. Rode his stick. He scored in a shootout or scored a something, right?
Okay, so
anyway.
So hold on, because I think that there is something here that I think we need to discuss, because it was brought up this weekend. I've got family who have kids that are playing minor hockey.
Yeah.
And there is, I will say this, there is a strong contingent of people who don't like the idea of fighting in hockey. And they don't like the idea of kids being exposed to the violence. And they think that, if it's a hit, let the referee call the penalty, and guys don't need to throw punches. And it sends the wrong message to kids. Now, I'll be very clear. Anybody that's watched me on Coach's Corner, anybody that's seen me on here, no, I do not subscribe to that theory. However, I'd be remiss if I didn't say that for the kids that are coming up today, not you and me, Johnny, we're of a different time. But for the kids that are coming up today, there are a lot of parents who have never played the game, who feel significantly different about how this game should be played. And so I'm curious.
I can answer that.
I was going to say, I'm curious because you see it on a regular basis with kiddos that are coming up today. What are your thoughts on it?
Well, if you can look at the statistics. Okay. When fighting is up, stick infractions
come down.
I look at it. I have a 10-year-old that plays hockey. I would rather see him drop, not now, obviously, then that's crazy to even talk about it as a 10-year-old, but when he's sitting junior or whatever, if he plays that long, I would rather see him deal with something by dropping the gloves and standing there and throwing a couple punches with a guy, if it's in the right context of the game. Do I want my son, going out there and taking his helmet off at center ice and spinning his helmet,
stage fighting and all that? No, nobody does.
No, but he knows now. He's been grown up in the game. Obviously, I'm heavily involved in a bunch of different ways. He knows. He knows codes, and they don't fight. But if somebody goes after one of Jack's teammates, Jack's gonna, and he within the rules of the game, he may get a penalty. He might go in and bump the kid over, or give him a little shot or whatever. What he's able to do at his level. But I would rather see my son get a punch in the face than a spear in the eye, or a cross check all his teeth out, or a baseball swing across the head, and all of a sudden he's got some brain trauma. So that's what it polices itself.
So let me ask this though, because and again, I'm playing the other side of the fence here. I'm on the Jen Botterill team here of players shouldn't have fear on the ice, and we should be accentuating the skill set of the player in the game. Nolan, I'm curious on what you think, because you've played more recently than either of the two of us. What do you say when somebody says something along the lines of, I want my child to be able to score goals and pass pucks, and I don't like the toxic masculinity of people feeling like they've got to throw punches to show that they're the toughest guy in the room in order to show that they're the best player? Because I'll be honest, there is a segment of this population that's coming up that are playing hockey that have parents that are like, I don't want that for my kid.
Right. Yeah. Obviously, I don't think hockey should or ever has been just full on violence, fighting all the time and stuff. But I do agree it should stay in the game. It's like John was saying, it helps the game police itself rather than going for dirty hits and stuff. You can actually one-on-one fight, settle the beef there, and keep the hockey going, keep that actual playing going. So yeah, I don't think it should ever go away. I think it should stay in the game. Obviously, it's a big part of it, always has been. And but also you don't want kids fighting growing up too much. But
no, but I also don't want them sticking each other in the face. Right,
100%.
You can train kids at a young age, and the kids I coach, if somebody takes a poke at their goalie, keep your stick down, keep your gloves down, and shoulder the guy in the chest and knock him down and say, hey, don't touch my goalie again, or it's going to get worse. Right? That's it's a minor penalty.
But
the problem now is you touch it. If you face wash a kid at the Jack's age, it's a headshot. It's 4 minutes.
But so what do you say though? Like, and I'm curious, and only because this came up to light in discussions that we were having around the table this weekend. What do you say to parents who are legitimately saying, I don't want my son, my daughter, I don't want them exposed to that. I want them to be able to play the game and play the game for skill, and to be able to show
there's leagues that do that. There's alternatives to even the body game, right? So if you're more, I can tell you right now, all the guys that have CTE that have the brain trauma, or a lot of them over the and I probably would count myself in that group.
We're all probably there. That's a fair point.
Right. It wasn't from punches to the face, John. It was from hits. It was from
head down over the blue line, Johnny.
Well, or head into the glass that didn't budge. Right. That's where that major trauma. not too many people, that I've fought certainly over my career, hit me hard enough that, I was concussed the next day. Right. I you know what I mean? Like a punch is a lot different than a stick across the head.
Yeah.
We didn't wear when I played, after junior, we had visors in junior, and then there was nothing.
Yeah.
Right. I didn't wear anything. I wore a Gretzky Jaffa overseas. That's all I wore. Right. So if I hit my head on the ice, I probably was concussed because that didn't protect anything. So, but there's alternatives. I used to work at one in Guelph, Ontario, and I used to do all their skills, and it's called Stanley Stick Hockey. And they have hockey from little guys right up to U18, and there's no contact. And they play a recreational game and a practice every Saturday. It's the commitment is low. The pricing's good. It's nice for a family because, as we know, you get into the AAA level and it's thousands and thousands of dollars to play hockey.
100%.
They got a set fee, when you practice, when you play. And that's what I would say to them. Hockey's a beautiful sport, no matter how you play it. It's, the physicality isn't for everybody. It's not for a lot of kids, and it's not for a lot of parents as well.
So I'm curious though. So let's take, because I agree, John, I agree with everything that you just said, by the way. But let's take a look at what is, and we can get into, because there's major news on Rogers and what they're trying to do with their rights. I think this bridges in kind of nicely into where we're going here. Roger, for those people that don't know, Rogers Sportsnet, which controls the rights to NHL hockey in Canada, is actually exploring selling off their Monday night hockey and their playoff inventory for NHL hockey. The going theory is that Amazon is the lead bidder. TSN's trying to get in on it, and there may be a few other smaller players to try and get a piece of it. But I'm curious in your opinion on this. If you've watched Hockey Night in Canada, in my mind, my personal opinion, it's a difficult watch on a weekly basis. Jen Botterill gets on and says things like players should not, at the NHL, I'm not talking about the minor hockey level, at the NHL level, players should not have to play in fear. She doesn't like the idea of fighting. She wants less physicality, less contact in the league. And I'm curious if you think that while somebody might want to promote that, if it's having a detrimental effect on the viewers that are watching the game. Because I think the majority of the viewers that watch the game disagree with that.
Yeah, 1,000%. And to the Amazon thing, I would love it.
I agree.
Let's go. If we can
100%.
get that company as a partner of the National Hockey League,
sign me up.
Right? The possibilities are endless. They can have the whole every game in every market. I don't care. As long as I get to see them, I could care less. I think you're going to start seeing people. So, Botterill annoys me too. I like the fact that, she's played the game and was a great player. So I get it. But what makes up for her kind of, disappointness or whatever you want to call it is Kevin Bieksa. I'm telling you, is a beauty. And I didn't like him as a player. I really didn't, because I've never been a Vancouver guy. And he was kind of one of those guys that was, tough to play against, right? He'd fight you, he'd stick you, he'd, yap you, all that kind of. It's like Kessler, Ryan Kessler and him were the two guys that you couldn't hate the Sedins. They were too nice. Who are you going to hate? Those two. So anyway, he's a beauty. Like I love, he'll tell it like it is. He's called guys out, right?
So
but I think what I muted a lot, right? I muted 100%. A lot, watch something on my phone. So what you're going to see Amazon do, okay? And I've heard this is you're going to go into some different broadcasting techniques. If you think of the money that they have behind them, that they could kind of try some stuff. And you're gonna go to maybe some formats more like this, where your intermission show could be us three, or it could be Gilmore, Clark, and Sittler, or you know what I mean? Like Amazon could now switch it and say, okay, let's do it like this.
Jeff Bezos, we're available.
Cool,
you can get us on TML Weekly on our Facebook page.
Done. Yeah, absolutely. You know, hey Jack, you coming in to say hi? Huh.
So listen. So
special guest here. Look.
Oh, Jackie, how's the knee feeling, buddy?
How's your knee feeling?
Good.
Can you hear them?
No.
No, because I got my headphones on. They asked you how your knee's feeling.
Good.
Yeah. Yeah. So we're just talking about maybe Amazon Prime getting some of the NHL TV rights. Would you think that'd be a good thing or a bad thing?
Good.
Yeah. You watch all the games, say. Yeah, I mean, I love it. I love, and you know what? Fighting has proven people like to look at the American, ranks when something happens. It's not fun. I don't want to. I'm like you, John. I don't want stage fights. I'd much rather, you're sticking up for somebody perfect. But hey, a little bit. I forgot about this when we talked earlier. A little bit more of the clown show coming out of Philly. Did you hear what Tortorella said to his presser?
Torts is fine in a box, but Torts has a tendency to go like, if the box is this big, he wants to make it that big. And when it's that big, Torts goes off the rails, and this is where he loses people.
Yeah. Well, did you hear what he said in his presser?
I know it's not good. He's a Looney Tune. He's a Looney Tune.
He admitted that they knew something was coming for Carter Hart last summer.
But, I thought you were talking about the captain.
No. He's in his presser. I don't know whether it was today after practice, but he basically said, he was doing a recap of the season, and he basically said, yeah, well, we knew something was coming with Hart last summer, so we kind of had our contingency plans, and so
that's a bad look.
MSM hasn't picked it up yet. Mainstream media hasn't picked it up yet, but when they do,
that's
just
a bad
wait.
Luck. That's
Look
a bad
at your socials tonight or tomorrow, and so now they're going to start to bring in Briere.
Yeah, it's a bad look.
It was Fletcher that signed him, though. It was Chuck Fletcher that signed him. Not
John, I don't care who signed him. It's a terrible look.
If they knew it was coming. Because, again, the Ottawa deal with Formanton, they just didn't sign him. He was playing in Rapperswil-Jona in the Swiss A-League.
Okay, and so listen, I think anybody that has watched this podcast or has listened to John or myself or Nolan understands we're not passing judgment on anybody. Everybody's innocent until they're proven guilty. The unfortunate part is, though, it's a bad look. It's not a good look for the league. It's not a good look for the players. It's definitely not a good look for the team. And the more and more of stuff that comes out, and as we get closer to trial and all that good stuff, John, I'm going to say it. I say it all the time. We're a hockey show, and we promote hockey. But I want to say, we're not going to forget the people that have been affected by it, because there are this is real life stuff, man, with real life people having real life consequences. And so, let's take everything here with a grain of salt and allow the process to play. But it is not a good look right now for Philly. And if John Tortorella said that, that's an even worse look.
Yeah. And then another one I wanted to touch on was Landon Dupont. Remember that name, folks. Just got exceptional status today for the Western Hockey League. Only the second dub player ever behind Connor Bedard, and the 9th overall. And this kid's the real deal.
Do we want to talk about who's the first, Johnny?
Tavares?
Correct, sir.
Landon Dupont is also defensive.
Oh, hey, I don't have a list here, right? I got nothing going on. Let's see if we can. I'm going to go. There's 9. So
you're going to name all 9?
I'm going to try. We'll see. See how good I am. So you got Tavares, Misa, Ekblad,
Ekblad for sure.
McDavid, Joe Veleno from the Detroit Red Wings got it in the queue. It's 5. This kid DuPont and Bedard in the West, that's 7. I know there was another queue besides Veleno. He played for St. John. You guys know the other 2?
Yeah, I have pulled up here. There's one that you might never name.
Who?
Never turned out to be anything. Do you want to keep guessing?
I'll know it as soon as I hear it.
Sean Day.
Yeah.
Shane Wright?
Shane Wright too.
So those are the 2 I missed?
Is Shane Wright on the list?
Yep.
Is Veleno the only Q ever? Or was Day a Q?
No, I think just Veleno. Oh, wait.
Yeah.
Sean Day. No, he played for the Steelheads.
Yeah, I thought I wanted to say he's from Kingston or something like that. But yeah, you know, this kid, his size, I think he's like 5, he's 14. He's like 5'11", 170 at 14. Right? Like he's already filling out and he scores and he's going to be good. He played for the Edge Prep school out of Calgary, one of those private.
Hey, good for that kid. Good for him. I hope he does great.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, what else do we have, Nolan? Anything else on the list?
Yeah. Do you guys want to talk about the Devils putting the puck into the Ottawa Senators net?
Hold on. I gotta get it. I gotta get on this because this this burned my craw. Okay, so I want everybody to go back and remember when the slap shot went into the net and Morgan Riley snapped and went in the corner and cross-checked him in the face and got his 38,000 game suspension. And the Ottawa team, the Ottawa media, and anybody that's ever had a Senator shirt on in their life gave you the song and the dance about how could the Maple. He didn't do anything wrong. He was just shooting the puck in the net. And if you don't like it, stop us from scoring was effectively what the message was. Well, the tables got turned 2 nights ago in Saturday night in Jersey. And Jersey, and be very clear, New Jersey didn't wind up and fire it in from the slot. Dude went in and just slightly gently rolled the puck in over the line. And if you watch Brady Tkachuk absolutely lose his mind on the ice, he was losing it. It was ridiculous. And if you hear him talk after the game, there's no difference. And here's my beef with Ottawa and why I'm ashamed of Brady Tkachuk. This is not a Tkachuk family trait. If it's good for the goose, it's good for the gander. And it can't be okay when it's your team punking off somebody, but when it's against you, the world is ending. It's a Mickey Mouse muffin move. Brady Tkachuk, you know better. The Ottawa Senators and your response, you know better. I'm disappointed in y'all.
I didn't mind the response. I agree with you, though, the point where but we talked about this on this show.
100%.
Ridley Gregg got brought into Steve Stale's office with, Jacques Martin and, whoever else would listen. He got a talking to about that, and I'm sure the whole team did. My issue, honestly, with shoveling it into the open net after the buzzer on Saturday night in Jersey, to me, might have been worse than taking a slap shot in an empty net within the time. Like I've always grown up and I've coached that, after the buzzer, after the whistle, right? If somebody puts a puck in, no different than sliding it down in the warm-up, right?
Yeah.
End of warm-up, you're going off and you fire one down on the other team's net. Expect to fight somebody in that game. So I didn't mind Tkachuk's response, but he didn't take the other one. He knows. He grew up in the game. He knows. he knows that Morgan did the right thing that night. So, yeah. But other than that, I mean, Ottawa's going to be some changes. I still think Brady Tkachuk's going to be gone.
He actually had a record-breaking game that night. He had 16 hits.
I saw that. Yeah. I mean, he's, I truly believe he's going to be in play this summer. Not to do with anything with the way he plays the game, because he plays heavy, he's offensive. I don't think he's a good leader yet.
Listen, hold on, because I think we need to say this, because while I'm going to agree and disagree with you, John. If the Ridley Gregg incident did not happen in Toronto, okay, I have zero problem with Tkachuk's response.
Oh, me too. I'm with you. I have zero problem anyway. He's got to respond.
Okay. No, but what I'm saying is I don't have a problem if the Ridley Gregg stuff doesn't happen and his response afterwards is not, I don't understand what the big deal is. We're just playing hockey. He took a shot. He scored. If you want to stop us from scoring, stop us from scoring. When that's your response and it's your team, and then you behave like a clown, I got a problem with it. If you don't behave the way you played against Toronto, right, I don't have a problem with it. And that's your response, because I think that should be your response, John.
That's why I think he's out of there. That's why I think he's gone.
I don't disagree. I don't disagree.
Okay. The Ridley Gregg
with this whole situation is Mickey Mouse. You can't have it one way and then another way on the other side.
If he was a good leader, and I'm not saying that he's a terrible leader, because I'm not in that room and I don't see it, but there's a couple of things within that group that kind of rubbed me the wrong way. That and that specific incident with the Morgan Riley hit on Ridley Gregg. If you think back, they did a live hit after the game with Giroux.
Correct.
Right? And he was upset about it. His body language was upset about it. He didn't say, stop us from scoring. No. He said, yeah, he was, he didn't want to come out and say, you know what, my teammate deserved it and he shouldn't have done that. And he's an idiot for doing it. He didn't say that, but he didn't say what.
But John, you know what else?
Chuck said.
You know what else nobody talks about? Nobody else talks about when they closed the door and it was a players only meeting. And Claude Giroux said, that's not how we play hockey. That is not what we do on this team.
Right.
Nobody talks about that. And so
but it's the
when I hear
that,
but that's exactly my point though, John. When you hear a veteran like Claude Giroux, who's laying down the law and saying, guys, this is not what we do. Yeah. And then you still have Tkachuk come out and say what he said. And then to behave the way he behaved last week. Listen, when you came on, and I'm going to give Johnny Mac full credit here. Johnny Mac came on to trade deadline and said Brady Tkachuk could be in play. And both Nolan and I went, whoa, are you sure? And the more and more, John, we see from Brady Tkachuk, and the more and more we see, Steve Staios fired all of the scouting team in Ottawa today. They're cleaning house in Ottawa. So it would. I think you might have been onto something a little while ago to give you a little bit of credit. I'm not afraid to give a little bit of credit where it's due.
No question. And then there's other instances that just keep popping into my mind. Tim Stützle flops around like he's been shot like an Italian
soccer player.
Yes, right. He's not doing that with Sidney Crosby, his captain, or Jonathan Taves, or Brad Marchand, or anybody in the league is not going to allow that kind of behavior. They're just not. So Ottawa's record, because on paper they were supposed to be where Detroit is.
Listen, I picked them for the playoffs,
trying to get into a wild card spot, right? They got young talent, a little bit of veteran leadership, brought in a good goalie. There's all kinds of reasons to make a case for them to be in the playoffs, except for that they can't win hockey games. And what is it, right? They changed the coach, seemed to get worse, right? Jacques Martin's record isn't any better than
DJ Smith.
DJ. Yeah. So, it's going to be, there's going to be a lot of movement this summer. I think I maintain, I went on the air last and did a tweet last Mother's Day. So that would have been in May of 2020.
Oh, I remember this one. This is a good one.
That I think this is Gary Bettman's last year. I heard that last year, and I reported it last year, and I still believe that. He's not the type of guy that's going to do, and I'm not saying that he's going to get booted, but I think that there's something's going to happen here, and it may be a joint decision, or maybe Gary himself. But I think it's time, especially when you're starting to talk to Amazons and the streaming services. Gary, I'm only 54, and I don't get a lot of this stuff, right? So a guy like Gary Bettman, I think you need to get some young blood with some tech background that understands the social media, that understands somebody that's a little bit more in tune with the way the world is going, and obviously has a great hockey mind. But Gary Bettman didn't have a hockey background; he came from the NBA.
What I will say, and listen, you're on the same websites I am. I know Nolan, you're on the same website. We're all on the same stuff. And there are so many people that are so ill-informed about what Gary Bettman's job is and what Gary Bettman does. And listen, I want to be very clear. You're allowed not to like Gary Bettman. And there is every reason over 25 plus years of his leadership that you can say, I don't like this, I don't like that, I don't like this. All I got to say is remember this. Gary Bettman does not work for the league. Gary Bettman works for the owners. Mm-hmm. And Gary Bettman has made the owners a crap ton of money. And if you don't believe me, look at the valuations of franchises when Gary Bettman took the league over. Look at the valuations of the franchises now. Look at the television deals when Gary Bettman took over and the NHL was paying Versus and paying NBC to be on television. And look at the contracts that they have now with ESPN and TNT and Sportsnet and everybody else are getting billions of dollars. Gary Bettman, and this is, I'm going to tell you, it's not a popular take, Johnny, and I'm going to take a lot of heat for saying this. Gary Bettman has done more good for the NHL than anyone will ever admit.
Oh, I absolutely agree. I mean, he's grown. People give him the business because he's hung on to Phoenix for so long. It's the 8th biggest TV market in the U.S.
Thank you.
Gary Bettman doesn't care that there's a team in Phoenix, Arizona.
Thank you.
But when you're negotiating, but now times are changing. And this is where I'm going, and this is what I said about the Amazon stuff.
You're right, and I agree with you.
Now this geographic stuff and TV markets and ratings and this and that, all these smoke and mirrors that have been out there and have hindered, certain markets and helped others, right? They're talking Atlanta again for the third time.
But John,
mass media the way it is, I wouldn't rule it out.
So for those people that don't know, the NCAA college basketball final goes tonight between UConn and Purdue. And if you don't, for those people who maybe don't quite get the business aspect and the economics of U.S. markets, the Pac-12 conference, UCLA, USC, Washington, Oregon, all of those schools, major U.S. schools in major television markets. That whole conference completely disappeared this year simply because the television didn't make sense. UCLA, USC, Oregon and Washington are now playing in the same conference as Michigan, Ohio State, Minnesota. Like it's a different world. And all I'm telling you is if you're a Canadian fan and you're pining for Winnipeg and you're pining for London and you're pining for Hamilton to get a team, guys, it's not happening. It's just not.
There's only one other place in Canada that it would have another team, and that's Toronto.
And MLSE will never allow that to happen.
I don't know about that.
Never.
I don't know about that.
When you're number one, you don't want number 1B to come into your marketplace.
If you get $1 billion in relocation fee or territory fee, yeah, I'd look at it for sure. Maybe you can control some of it.
I don't know, man. If you own the market, why would I allow somebody else to come in?
Because that's a market that could have two. If
know,
New York can have three, Toronto
can
have
they though? But let's
three.
be honest though. Can New York have three? I mean,
They've had three for 40 years, 50 years, 60 years now.
Yeah, but let's be honest though. New York has 6 times the population, the New York Metro GTA area.
Yeah, but it's not a hockey market.
Right.
You know, compared to the percentage of people that play and watch hockey in Toronto compared to the people that play and watch hockey in New York would be like a dominant stat. Right?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not disagreeing with you there, but how many times have you heard everybody that likes New York, everybody that loves the Rangers lives within 15 minutes of Madison Square Garden?
Yeah.
Right?
It's something to do there. It's an event.
You know what?
And that is in Toronto too.
The Islanders have struggled for years.
Yeah.
You know what? They got rescued by the where's the horse track that got the arena deal?
Belmont.
Yeah, the Belmont is what rescued that franchise. You know, they were in bad shape for a long time. And Jersey, listen, New Jersey, when New Jersey wins, New Jersey will fill that building.
Yeah.
After Brodeur left, it's been a lot of empty seats at the Rock.
Yeah. I think Phoenix is already moving to Utah.
Probably.
I think that's done. And I think it's going to be something that they may announce just prior to they're not going to do it until the regular season's over at this point, because you got, Arizona has 4 or 5, 6 games left. They don't want, it'll be mayhem in there. You're going to get
something interesting
because they have some diehard supporters that have been around, right? I
Yep.
used to go to a lot of games there back in mid 2000s, and when Gretzky was coaching, and it's funny. I got to do a story time, and then we're going to end it. You want another story time?
Story time with Uncle Jay.
Or do we have anything else, Nolan?
Yeah, I just want to jump in quick. So about Utah, the owner of the Utah Jazz in the NBA, who wants the Utah to get a team, he tweeted out today asking fans for ideas for team names.
Today,
to get an NHL team.
What does that tell you?
Yeah.
So I think that's going to happen. And you know what? That wouldn't have happened before this with the TV rights. Utah has a pretty good TV market, but it's not.
Utah's a top 40 TV market in the U.S.
Top 40, right?
Yeah.
But you got only 24 American teams, right? So you got to look at, you got to try the ideal scenario in the old way with that regional. These TV companies are going bankrupt. These, Fox Sports West and some of these,
Alley Sports.
There's a couple teams that lost their basic TV deal in the middle of the season, right? Because things are streaming. Anyway, but with Utah, it's like that wouldn't have got a franchise. Would have been, wouldn't have been high on the list. Now it is. Now it's like, oh, you know what? Desirable place. In the mountains and beautiful destination. You go stay in Park City and go to a couple of games, and you got the Olympics history and stuff like that. Yeah. But my story has something to do with the Coyotes. That's why I wanted to.
Okay, hit us.
Are we good? Do we have any predictions to do?
Yeah, do you want to do that first or after?
Yeah, let's do that, and then I'll finish off with it. It has to do with Josh Doan.
Okay.
Oh, I know where you're going with this. This is a
great
story. Okay, maybe I don't.
I don't think so. I might have told you this one. You never know.
All right. Point predictions. We got Devils Tuesday, Devils again Thursday, and then Detroit Saturday.
6.
We got Devils, and who?
Detroit.
Red Wings, Detroit.
Okay, so I don't want to agree with Johnny, but I feel like if we can't beat New Jersey twice and Detroit, like Detroit's going to be a bit of a gut check game right before the playoffs. Detroit's
depends on where they are.
They're desperate.
If they lose,
they're in the threshold, right? Like if they win the first 2, like this week, and you get to that game on Saturday, like I feel like that game that's a gut check game for the Leafs. You know what? I'm going to change it. I'm going to go 4. because I'm going to say we're going to beat Jersey twice, and I know the Leafs record in gut check games, and I don't like it, so I'm going to go 4.
Okay.
I changed my mind.
I'm just gonna go 3. And we don't know the results of last week, obviously, because we're recording on Monday, and the game against Pittsburgh hasn't happened yet. So we'll see what happens there. But
So just before we get into it, I just pulled up the market for Salt Lake, just for people that are watching, and here are the 3 cities that are just in front of Salt Lake City. For those people who are wondering, like growing like Utah, what are you people talking about?
No, it's not a bad market for sure.
Here are the 3 cities, that are just, and when I say just, I'm talking about like 100,000 people. Okay. Indianapolis,
Yeah.
Pittsburgh, and Baltimore.
Yeah.
So if you want to know why you're going to Utah,
Yeah.
that's your reason. The only pro sports franchise that's in Utah right now is the Jazz.
Right. And you got
I'm telling you, I'm telling you, as somebody who watches college sports, the Utah Utes, the Utah State Aggies, Brigham Young Cougars, they draw astronomical numbers. Astronomical numbers. Okay. BYU has their own, I mean, granted, it's a religious affiliation, but they got their own station that they broadcast their own games on. And BYU does fantastic. Utah does fantastic on the Pac-12 network. Utah State draws very well in the Mountain West. There is big time possibilities for the NHL in Utah. I think it's a great thing. Now,
for sure.
Hit us with Arizona, Johnny.
Okay, so it must have been, I'm going to go back to 2005, say 4 or 5 and around there. 5 or, mid 2000s. And I had a buddy of mine that was a strength and conditioning coach for the Coyotes. And I was doing some stuff from a grassroots level in some markets in the southwest of the U.S., working with the Coyotes and doing some little Coyote stuff and learn to play stuff. So I was around the rink a lot. I went to a lot of games and developed a friendship with their strength coach. So we played golf together, this and that, whatever. Anyway, so I was in visiting one day and so at this time, Brett Hull was playing on the team and Wayne Gretzky was the coach and, Shane Domi was there, of course, and stuff like that. So, I went in on it wasn't a game day, but it was a normal, like the guys were in and out and whatnot. We went into the room, looked around and then, Shane comes in. So, hey, how you doing? Always just a gentleman, wouldn't never swear, just a very, very straight up guy. Anyway, he had this little toddler with him, 2 years old or something like that. This kid was relentless. He had a mini stick and a little tennis ball or a little foam ball or whatever. And Shane Doan had to, I'm telling you, we were sitting there talking for about 45 minutes having coffee. And Shane Doan was sitting on the floor in the trainer's office and just whacking the ball back to this kid, Josh Doan. So that's the kid that, made his NHL debut in front of his old man, 2 goals.
So good. So good.
It's just a story, right? Which, when we talk about the lack of interest, so to speak, with the over the years with the Coyotes, they had a little bit of success, couple of playoff rounds, and still couldn't get traction. They blamed it on where the rink was. I remember when they built that rink. It's the best place for it. We're going to have an entertainment area. That never came to fruition. It's tough. It's a tough sell. And you know what? Honestly, ASU going to Division I hurt them. Absolutely hurt them, because guess what? Am I going to pay $100 to go see, a bottom 6 team in every perennially that trades away their good players? Or am I going to go see a bunch of kids that, and ASU is recruiting the hell out of the market, right?
And so, I want to say this because John, I think it gets lost. on a lot of Canadians who don't follow NCAA. When we hear like Arizona State or Arizona, we equate it to U of T or York, and it couldn't be further from the truth. Arizona State University in Tempe, it is the Maple Leafs. That's what I'm saying. If you go to Michigan in Ann Arbor, it's the Maple Leafs.
Yeah.
If you go to Lexington, Kentucky, it's the New York Yankees in Kentucky for basketball.
Yeah.
The U.S. collegiate system and the influence it has on the marketplace, Canadians can't really grasp it other than to say, if you live in Montreal, it's the Habs. If you live in Toronto, it's the Leafs. If you live in Vancouver, it's the Canucks. That's the best. And that's probably not even doing, you understand what I mean? It's not even doing it justice. Like the U.S. collegiate system is staggering, the influence that it has on the community. And it's, in my mind, it's a beautiful thing.
I said it for the last 3 or 4 years. There's only one way, and one way only, to save that team. And that's Austin Matthews. It's the only way. But I truly believe, a la Gretzky in 88, if the Toronto Maple Leafs, and this is a water cooler talk, right? Hypothetical, of course. But if the Toronto Maple Leafs were able to figure out a way and a package to come the other way to send Austin Matthews, and it has to be now, not in 3 years when his contract's up and he's 30, right? And he's starting the downside. Right now, when he's scoring 64 goals and has a chance at 70 and MVP.
Let's just call it 70.
I'm just telling you, if the people in Phoenix are listening, if you want to save your hockey club, that man will do it. And I truly believe, because he's from there, he's part Hispanic, which is a tremendous demographic in the greater Phoenix area. Okay.
100%.
You've got the one, arguably, top 3 player in the world, right? From your community, the captain of the Phoenix. I'd go back to the name Phoenix. I'd go back to the roots. Phoenix Coyotes. He saves it. They figure out land. They get a rink. He saves it. And it could be a Mario Lemieux type deal where, hey, you know what? We're gonna trade for you. We're gonna give everything. I don't know how competitive we're gonna be right away, but what we want to do, because we're going to give, if you think of the assets they got to give up, it'll be tremendous. Having said that, if you can get that arena built, instead, they have quite a bit of young talent too. They've stockpiled picks and assets. That would be my move. If I'm Billy I played with Billy Armstrong, their GM. I played with him for a couple of games in Toronto with the Marlboros, and he's down there, and he's a smart guy. Right. He depending on what his job security is, does he want to go to Utah?
And so 2 things that I'll say to you. The one thing that I think Phoenix that kills Phoenix more than anything else is Phoenix does not have a home. Phoenix cannot, and whether it's in Phoenix, whether it's in Glendale, whether it was in Tempe,
it's got to be in Scottsdale. I believe it's got to be in Scottsdale. That's where the money is.
Listen, I'm not disputing that. City Council doesn't want to happen. And so therefore that's going to kill it. It's what's killed it all the way along listen, I'm not telling you guys anything you don't know. If you've ever watched American politics and tried to see, public money for a private arena, that stuff doesn't fly right now in Republican politics in Arizona. What I can tell you is this. I'd love to see Arizona work. I just, while you were talking, you were telling the story, I was just doing a look at the TV markets in the U.S. And I'm going to tell you something about Utah. This is going to blow your mind. Utah has almost double the marketplace of Buffalo and it's about 20% higher than Vegas.
Oh yeah, that doesn't surprise me for sure.
You know what I mean? Like
the Buffalo's a hockey town, right?
But what I'm saying is for those
Yeah.
people that are hearing this and going, Utah's never going to work. Utah will work.
TV market doesn't matter anymore. If they're going to start selling rights to streaming services, right? Put a team in Abu Dhabi that comes over and goes on the road for 6 months, man. It doesn't matter. You can watch it wherever.
Regarding the
You don't have
Coyotes, earlier today it came out, it said the mayor of Scottsdale tells the Coyotes not to bring a new arena near his city.
Wow.
What does that tell you?
Yeah, but you know what? My point on it is, if they walked into the mayor's office tomorrow and say, "Hey, we just acquired Austin Matthews from the Toronto Maple Leafs for blah 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 blah," it makes a difference.
I don't think so.
It makes a difference. You know what? Because now you're getting into, and I don't want to bring race into it.
No, bring it. No, but it's valid, John. It's a valid point in that marketplace.
Arguably, the
most marketable,
the best ever athlete to ever come out of that market in any sport.
I don't think arguably. I think that's a legit.
Well, there's golfers and baseball players, and there's a lot of. I mean, it's a big city, a lot of history. I'm just saying that he's right there. Whether it's not a sport that's high on Arizona's list, but if you had him, that would be your Hail Mary, I guess.
Listen, when I nicknamed him the Savior, it was to save the Maple Leafs, not Arizona.
Oh, I don't want him to go. Don't get me wrong. I'm just putting it out there that could save that franchise.
Okay, so we've made our predictions. What do we want to add? Oh, listen, for all of the people that are watching, listen. Number one, we appreciate you watching. We love coming on. We love doing this every week for you guys. We love the feedback. We've started, Johnny Nolan and I, a brand new Facebook page called TML Weekly. We encourage you, come on, join us, put your comments on the podcast, give your comments on the team, on the feedback, what you like to see with the team, what you hate with the team. If you want to make negative comments on the coach, I will like every single post you make. I give you my word.
And Nolan will block you.
I'm the same one.
Till next week.
Go Leafs, go.